Hi, and welcome back to our channel. I'm Carol.
And I'm Laura.
And we recently went on a 7-day cruise to Alaska on the NCL Encore. We were on board August 27th through September 3rd, 2023. And today we want to share with you our thoughts about the NCL Encore in case you are thinking about booking a cruise on this ship as well. Before we get started, we want to invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss anything from Core 4 Adventures.
So first up, why did we pick our particular itinerary? We chose a 7-day cruise through the Inside Passage that included a day in Glacier Bay National Park.
That was number one on my bucket list. I wanted to see the glaciers, and the best way to see them is from a cruise ship.
I really wanted to go to Alaska too, so it really ticked all of our boxes.
Another thing that we really wanted to do on this cruise was go to Skagway for the White Pass Railroad, and in particular, the VIP car.
Oh, that was a highlight of our trip.
Absolutely. So funny story, this is the very first cruise that we ever booked, but it is not the first cruise we ever went on.
The first cruise we ever went on was for my 50th birthday in the Caribbean. We squeezed that in before this trip.
I think we caught the cruise fever as soon as we booked the cruise to Alaska, and we just couldn't wait that long to go on our very first cruise ship, and I don't regret it at all.
Not one bit. So Carol and I did a ton of research beforehand to know exactly what to expect on a cruise.
And so here's what we thought about the NCL Encore. First of all, this ship was built in 2019, so it was a fairly new ship and modern, and it felt new to us.
It held about 4,000 passengers and almost 2,000 crew, so it's a pretty good sized ship as well.
It's definitely one of the larger ones in NCL's fleet.
And even though it is one of their biggest ships, we found the layout really easy to navigate.
And the decor inside was just absolutely beautiful and modern, with one big exception. Every NCL ship has a chandelier that is the focal point, and the one on the NCL Encore, I'm just not a fan of. It looks messy and odd and awkward, especially compared to some of the other ships.
It really just feels like plastic grocery bags blowing in the wind.
Or bubble wrap. So again, not a fan of that one. I think they could have done better. But one of the areas that we really did love on the ship was the waterfront.
That waterfront is absolutely amazing. It's a deck on the ship, fairly low. On our ship it was deck 8, and it goes almost the entire way around the ship, and it has lots of little nooks and areas for you to sit and watch the water, or you can walk all the way around the deck.
There's also outside dining in some of the specialty restaurants that's on the waterfront, and one of the things that I like to do was go out there at night and see the stars.
It's a great place to sit and read a book during the day as well. So now let's talk about what activities are available on the NCL Encore.
So number one, the NCL Encore is absolutely famous for having one of the largest go-kart tracks at sea. Now, we were on a cold weather cruise, so it was shut down from time to time, and we did not get an opportunity to ride the go-karts. However, we are booked on the NCL Viva coming up in March of 2025, and it's a warm weather cruise, and we are going to make it a priority to make sure that we ride the go-karts on that one.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now, next to the go-kart track is the laser tag arena. It's a really cool area. Even if you're not going to play laser tag, it's a great area to just go check out when they're not in use.
I was impressed with how they have everything created to really immerse yourself in the world in the laser tag area. I also recommend that you go check that out. And right next to all of the go-karts and the laser tag is the pool deck with all of the water slides. Now, on the NCL Encore, they have that drop slide that goes off the side of the ship. Again, we were on a cold weather cruise, so we didn't get a chance to try it this time, but we'll have to try it the next time we are on the Encore.
Now, just because you're on a cold water cruise doesn't mean there's not a lot of activities that you can do. Did you know the Encore has an escape room? How cool is that? And the Galaxy Pavilion is a not miss area as well. It has virtual reality games, and it is really cool.
And next to the local, there are some other arcade games that you can play. We spent some time there, and we like to play darts as well. So the number one place that we spent time at on the NCL Encore was the thermal suite. This is part of the Mandara Spa, and it was absolutely fantastic.
We actually have a video about that thermal suite, and we will link it right here. So on this cruise, we did splurge for a balcony cabin. If you're going to someplace like Alaska where you're going to spend an entire day in Glacier Bay, we highly recommend, if it's in your budget, go ahead and get that balcony cabin.
And we found them to be very comfortable and spacious cabins, perfect for 2 people. There's a seating area, the bed is large enough, the balcony itself is large enough to go out there. And one of the things that we were worried about before booking our first cruise was how big the bathrooms were going to be.
But those bathrooms are plenty big. I felt like I could turn around completely in the shower. I never felt like I was bumping into the wall, and there's no shower curtain in those bathrooms, which is really nice.
So there are 3 main areas that large groups can gather on the NCL Encore. The first being the theater, where we saw some great entertainment.
We saw Choir of Man in that theater, but we'll talk about that a little later.
The second area is the atrium, and this is one of the places that I really love. It is also 2 stories, and the top deck of it has seating where you can get food at the local and then look at the activities going on down below.
There's lots of activities that happen in that atrium, including I saw bingo in there at one point, Deal or No Deal, and like a newlywed style game. Really a lot of fun activities to do.
And then the last area on the NCL Encore is really special, and this is the observation lounge. We absolutely loved this area. It is quiet, and it's got 2 stories full of windows so that you can look out on the scenery from the inside and you don't have to get cold when you're up in Alaska.
This is an amazing feature that both the Encore and its sister ship, the Bliss, have, and that's one of the reasons why they use it for the Alaskan cruises, because it's great for those cold water cruises and especially for Glacier Bay Day.
And one thing that's neat about the observation lounge is that they have refreshments available for you, like a small buffet, finger food, drinks are available as well, and a full service bar.
So now let's talk about the itinerary that we were on. We started with embarkation day, which is always labeled that way, but really it's an extra sea day, right? And of course, our first day on the cruise after embarkation day was an actual sea day.
I love a sea day. It's forced relaxation.
So much fun. We spent a lot of time personally in the spa and the thermal suite, but we also took a lot of time to go play games in the local and do things like that.
And check out the entire ship and get a lay of the land. I like a sea day at the beginning of a cruise.
That's a great tip. On that first sea day, explore the ship, get your bearings, really get the feel for the ship.
So the second day we stopped in Juneau.
In Juneau, we took the Mount Roberts tramway to the top of the mountain and went for a nice hike.
It was so much fun to get out in nature. We got to see waterfalls, a bald eagle's nest, and even some indigenous people's totems. It was fantastic.
It really was. It was a highlight.
Yeah.
So that evening, we took the tramway back down to the town and had dinner at Tracy's King Crab Shack.
It was delicious, but you do have to be prepared because it is a little pricey.
It is a little pricey, but one thing about it, Carol and I split a king crab dinner and a snow crab dinner, and honestly, we both liked the snow crab dinner a lot better, and so did our pocketbook. Our second port of call was Skagway, and we had a very special adventure planned for Skagway on the White Pass Railroad. The White Pass Railroad takes you along the route that the gold miners took during the gold rush, and it is a really special experience.
It was absolutely the number one thing that I was looking forward to because we booked seats in the VIP car where we got to have our own club chair. They had refreshments and drinks, and we got the back platform of the caboose of the train to have a panoramic view of the mountain. It was amazing.
Oh, it was beautiful. An unobstructed view was well worth it.
And we had our own tour guide to explain everything along the way. If you can swing it, I definitely recommend the VIP car on the White Pass Railroad. After that, we went back down to Skagway and we went to the Red Onion Saloon.
We had those reindeer fart shots at the Red Onion Saloon. That was so good that we actually had reindeer fart shots on Christmas this year, because I'm telling you, those are Christmas in your mouth.
It was fantastic. You got to see a little of the brothel and a little bit of the old Gold Rush town as well. And the next day, we cruised through Glacier Bay National Park. This was also one of the reasons why we picked this itinerary to begin with, because we wanted to see the glaciers, and the best way to see that is from the cruise ship. Now, they only let a couple cruise ships in the Glacier Bay National Park per day, so not every itinerary to Alaska will include a stop in Glacier Bay National Park. It is well worth it.
I think everybody should do Glacier Bay at least once.
It was fantastic.
It really was. It does feel a lot like a sea day, and you're pretty much done with Glacier Bay by like lunchtime, so it really is a bit of a sea day, and that's the day where those balconies really come in handy. We woke up at our leisure. We opted to pay for the breakfast to be delivered to our room, including hot coffee and hot cocoa and tea, so that we could sit out on our balconies and really enjoy those glaciers. It was a moment to really remember for the rest of our lives.
Now, if you do not have a balcony cabin, if you have an inside cabin, you can go to the observation lounge. That's really what these ships were built for, especially on the NCL Encore. Although I will give you a hint to get out there early because the spots go very, very quickly.
Next up, we went to Ketchikan, Alaska. What a cool little town.
Now, we stayed at Ward Cove. That's where our ship docked, so we had to get on a bus, a shuttle, to take you into town. There are docks right there in Ketchikan, but those were taken by other cruise ships that day. But NCL has done a great job in Ward Cove, and it is a very well-oiled machine to get you off the ship, on the buses, and down to Ketchikan.
And to Creek Street. Creek Street is a really cool place. There's a lot of brothels along Creek Street that you can go in and tour, but there's also salmon running up that creek. That was really cool. We happened to be there at the time that the pink salmon were running, so we got to see it, and it was a really interesting experience.
We loved standing on the boardwalk, seeing the fish go by, and also there was a harbor seal that was enjoying some lunch, so we got to see nature in action.
It was really fun.
Yeah, after that we went to the Great American Lumberjack Show. This was so much fun and energy. It was more than what I expected. I'm not even sure what I expected, but it blew me away.
I've gone to some things similar to that in the past, but this far exceeded anything I'd ever seen like that before.
And it's something that I would recommend for all ages.
Now, we did book this excursion through NCL. You don't have to book every excursion through the cruise line, but it was nice to know that we had that because we were all the way back at Ward Cove and it was a tight turnaround. Knowing that we had booked it through there, they weren't going to leave us.
That is definitely a tip. If you book an excursion through the cruise line and something happens, the ship will wait for you. If you book a cruise excursion on your own and something happens, they will not wait for you. So because we had such a really tight port day in Ketchikan, we booked through the cruise line, and I'm really glad that we did. And our final port stop was in Victoria, British Columbia. Now, there is a rule that if you are leaving from a U.S. port and coming back to a U.S. port, you have to have a stop in a port in another country somewhere along the way. So when they're doing the Alaska itineraries, they typically stop there at Vancouver Island and stop in Victoria, British Columbia. I had that wrong on a previous video. I called it Victoria Island, and I want to thank the subscriber who corrected me because I want to be accurate on that.
Absolutely. It really felt like a sea day that day though, because it was a technical port and we didn't really get off the ship until about 8:30 p.m. But we made the most of it. They had a horse-drawn trolley ride that we took through the center of town, and that was a really magical experience.
The one thing that I loved about having an evening port stop in Victoria, British Columbia, is that they have the entire town lit up, and it was spectacular, and you wouldn't have seen that if you had been there during the day.
And then once we were done with our excursion, we actually went back into town to try a beaver tail because everybody had told us about this dessert and we had to try it for ourselves.
It was delicious.
So next up, let's talk about the food on the ship. Now, every cruise ship I've ever heard of has a buffet on it, and that's great if that's what you're into. But if you're like us and don't like to go to the buffet, there's something for everyone.
There's so many options for food on board. We took advantage of the specialty dining options on board and went to 6 of the specialty dining restaurants, including Le Bistro, which is the French restaurant. We went to Food Republic, which is like an Asian fusion restaurant. Ocean Blue, which is seafood. We went to Los Lobos, which is the Mexican restaurant. We went to Cagney's, which is a classic American steakhouse. And they even have Q Texas barbecue. That's right, barbecue on a cruise ship.
Now, the one restaurant that we didn't go to in the specialty dining was Onda, but we ran out of time. We went to 6 different restaurants.
Now, if you're interested in the specialty dining on the NCL Encore, we did an entire video where we ranked each one of these restaurants and talked about them in detail, and I'm going to link that right here for you.
Now, we probably won't do as many specialty dining credits on our next cruise. However, we really wanted to try out all the specialty restaurants. But there are lots of things to eat on the cruise that don't include the buffet that aren't an extra charge. There are 3 main dining rooms on the NCL Encore, and they all were fantastic. First, there's Taste and Savor, which are directly across from each other, and they are mirror images of each other, and they are great main dining rooms. And then there's the Manhattan Room, up 1 floor, and it has live music and entertainment during dinner. It's a really cool experience as well.
In addition to the main dining rooms, the NCL Encore has an area called the Local, and this has 24-hour food available, especially great for those late night munchies. My favorite item at the Local is the spinach and artichoke dip. I could eat that all day, every day. And as we already mentioned, you can get a seat at the bar that overlooks the atrium and see the fun stuff that's going on down below.
And talking about late night snacks, don't miss that brownie cheesecake.
Oh,
that was so good.
With the raspberry sauce on top of it.
Carol and I split that a couple of times.
And in addition to that, you can also get room service for a very, very small delivery fee. The food is free. You just have to pay for the delivery fee. So on that Glacier Bay day, or maybe port days where you're trying to get off the ship really early, you can have breakfast delivered straight to your room, and that feels so luxurious.
It really does. For $5 to $10 plus maybe a small tip to the person who brought it to the room, you can have that room service that you wouldn't normally take on a normal vacation.
And in addition, there are some fun little shops throughout the ship that you might want to check out, like Coco's, which is chocolate, and all kinds of sweet treats. They've got a gelato shop as well, and of course, Starbucks. So don't miss all of those little shops, even though they do have an extra charge associated with them. Overall, the food on the NCL Encore and NCL in general, I give 2 big thumbs up. It is amazing, and it is one of the reasons why we keep cruising with NCL.
So next up is the entertainment and activities on the NCL Encore. Well, the big show on that ship is Choir of Man, and did we have an amazing time in Choir of Man. They even pulled me up on stage with them to be part of the production.
It is something I will never, ever forget. It is a lot of energy, fun, great fun pop songs, and it all takes place in a pub with all these guys singing these songs. And at the very beginning of the show, they invite all of the audience up on stage to grab a beer, and we absolutely loved it. Previously, NCL Encore had 2 big stage shows. They had Choir of Man and Kinky Boots, but unfortunately, they canceled Kinky Boots, and we didn't get to see it on our cruise.
I think that is one thing that really disappointed me. They're trying to pare things down a little bit to help after the pandemic, but it did feel like a really big letdown.
Yeah, because we had already seen Choir of Man on the NCL Escape, but we'd watch it again next time because it is that good of a show. Another music venue available on board is the Cavern Club. Now, we spent some fun times in here because it is featuring the music of the Beatles. They have a tribute band that plays every single night, and each night is a different era. So you might start with the 50s, then it goes to the 60s and the 70s, and the music goes along with you. Now, one thing I will say is that the Cavern Club is a small venue, so it fills up really, really quickly. So get there early if you want a seat.
Yeah, you can't do reservations for the Cavern Club, but you can do reservations for the comedians. So get those reservations early and go see a comedian. Kind of a cool little thing to do on a trip.
And one other area that you can get live music is at the District Brew House. And they often will have somebody playing a piano and singing in there while you're drinking some beer.
And the Observation Lounge at night often has a piano player as well.
And as we've already mentioned, there's trivia and games going on in the atrium all throughout the day. And you check that cruise daily planner to find out what time and where those things will be taking place. So the final category that we're going to be talking about in our review of the NCL Encore is the service. We had some great experiences with the service on board the NCL Encore.
Their crew is absolutely amazing, and they made us feel very special and very well taken care of. From everyone on the ship, our cabin attendants were absolutely phenomenal. When we first got on the ship, our cabin attendant came and introduced himself to us, asked us if we needed anything extra. We actually asked for one of those little egg crates to go on our bed. And before we even got back from dinner that first night, it was taken care of.
Other great service that we saw on board were at the bars. The bartenders were great.
They were phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to go to the same bar all the time, tip that bartender the first day and they will take good care of you the rest of the trip.
So other service that we received on board that I feel went above and beyond was the security. So when we were in Juneau, Alaska, Pepper, lost his cruise card. We don't know what happened. Maybe we were out hiking and it fell out of his lanyard, and we didn't know how he was going to be able to get back on the ship. So we went to the security and explained what happened. He had his photo ID with him, and they were able to look him up in the system and really made us feel welcome and at ease when it came to that. And there was one other thing that happened with Pepper on the ship last time, and that was he thought he lost his wallet. So we went down to the customer service desk probably 5 or 6 times to see if it had been turned in, and they were kind and gracious and empathetic, and they checked every single time for us. Good news though, it turned out that he left it in his backpack that was always in our room, so it never got lost. It was just misplaced.
Overall, with the service on the NCL Encore, we had absolutely no complaints.
We felt well taken care of the entire time.
So have you been on the NCL Encore? What did you think about it? We would love to hear what you have to say in our comment section below.
And we really want to thank you for watching our video today. If you found this helpful in any way, please like our video and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything from Core 4 Adventures. It really helps our channel out.
Thank you so much for watching today, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Bye!